The Underworld is an understable fairway driver from Westside Discs with a surprising amount of control. Let's take a look. So we'll start with feel. The first thing I noticed about the Underworld is the dome. These discs naturally tend to have just a little bit of dome on them, and that gives them extra glide, and they can get extra distance down the fairway at the fairway driver speed, which is really valuable. For the rim, it's a 7-speed disc, so it doesn't have too wide of a rim. It's definitely really comfortable for me, and if you have smaller hands, you're really going to like the feel of the Underworld. It's deeper than most understable discs. It feels fairly similar to something like a Hatchet, maybe just a little bit thinner rim on the edge here. As far as the flight, the numbers on the Underworld are a speed 7, a glide 6, a turn of -3, and a fade of 1. And if you've thrown a Hatchet, I'm going to compare the Underworld to the Hatchet as best as I can. So I expected the Underworld, based on the numbers, to be a good bit less stable than the Hatchet, but that's not really what I found out. I think that the Underworld on a hyzer release is going to cover more or less the same distance as the Hatchet, but it's going to turn a little bit less and get a little bit more forward motion out of it. So I really liked this disc for a little bit of a hyzer release. I could flip it to flat, let it work to the right, and I could trust that it wasn't going to dive into the ground. I didn't have to worry about turning it too much into the ground. I knew it was going to get a nice smooth turn, but it was still going to come back out and fade straight. On a flat release, at a fairway driver, I don't really throw those maximum distance big turnover shots very often, so this disc will fly that line, but I didn't really find it very useful for that. So I could throw it flat and let it work way over to the right, and again, I knew it wasn't going to dive into the ground. Because it is super domey and it has that 6 glide, that's a ton of glide for a fairway driver. It's going to stay in the air, and it's not going to want to cut into the ground too early if you're trying to throw that anhyzer. But if you're trying to throw a roller, the Underworld works great for that. Now, because it's not quite as understable as something like a Hatchet, I did have to start it a little bit more vertical than the Hatchet, and it would roll a little bit straighter. I would use the Underworld as a great roller if I'm looking for something that's not going to go quite as far as something like a Queen. I could get the Underworld down a little bit sooner, and it's not going to deviate as much left to right as it rolls. I could use it for hyzer flips in the woods to replace that forehand shot shape. The Underworld is going to turn and fly straight while it's turning and then finish to the right. And I can be confident that that range that's just outside of my forehand, I can hit with the Underworld. So that's what I think about the Underworld. Let me know what you think about the Underworld in the comments down below. Let me know what other Westside discs I should review, and I'm actually going to give away this 174 gram VIP Underworld to my favorite comment down below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any other videos from Westside Discs, and I'll leave you with an excerpt from the Kalevala about the Underworld.
Many heroes cross the channel, cross the fatal stream of mana. Few return to tell the story. Few return from Tuonela, from Manala's courts and castles.